Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. Uh-oh, here it comes. Very interesting turn of events announced just yesterday. Marvel Studios heading back to Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con this year. What does that mean for the comic book market? I don't know about you guys, but I've been feeling the tide starting to turn. I've been feeling a little bit in the ether, so to speak. Do you guys feel that same little thing, that little tingle of speculation coming back? Could it be? Has it been long enough? Have people forgotten? Is the bug ready to bite once again in the comic book market? Well, in this video, we're going to give a little prognosis and talk about the implications that might come as a result of Marvel Studios heading back to Hall H and what that means for comic book markets for the rest of the calendar year. But of course, before I get into the video, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I appreciate it. Helps for the channel doing those things. But let us get into this one here today. Marvel Studios heading back to Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con. Following a sleepy San Diego Comic-Con last summer due to the actor strike, this year's confab is about to explode with the return of Marvel Studios at Hall H per sources. You know what's funny? This person says sleepy San Diego Comic-Con last year, but actually everybody on the con floor was actually talking about how last year San Diego was one of the best San Diego Comic-Cons, for the reason being that there was no actors there, that there was no Hall H there, which was really funny. And it actually did kind of turn out that there were more people on the show floor because there weren't any panels. So I'm not saying that, comic books like sold for crazy prices, but it did feel like, anecdotally speaking, at least in the vintage aisles, there were more people walking around. But I digress. Traditionally, the penultimate day of San Diego Comic-Con is dedicated to Marvel Studios' presentation in the late afternoon. Let's not forget that it was originally meant for comic books, but okay. This year's presence from Marvel falls on the opening weekend of its first R-rated Disney movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is expected to be huge, with some tracking firms spotting a possible $200 million start. No word yet on what Marvel will dazzle us with. However, the studio left big footprints at San Diego Comic-Con 2019 when it announced their Disney Plus and big screen crossovers in 2022 when they teased their Phase 5 and 6 plans. And that's kind of where I will leave the article for now. It's really interesting because San Diego Comic-Con is the time of the year when people go crazy in the comic book market, because usually Marvel, traditionally had come out and announced a bunch of things. And even, in my times being at San Diego Comic-Con, it wasn't uncommon for people to literally go from Hall H down to the vintage comic book aisle and say, do you have the first appearance of Deadpool? And buy the book like straight after, the words coming out of Kevin Feige's mouth. And that was actually true of 2022 when they announced Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, the very last month of peak fervor before my comic book index would go on the decline for about, 18 months straight. Right around here was when we got San Diego Comic-Con last year. And the graph was obviously going down, from the top of 2022, but nobody was really aware of it yet. It was still kind of in this denial phase. We still at that point were in Multiverse of Madness territory, and Moon Knight was on Disney Plus, and people were still going crazy for those books. And, you had to be really in the weeds to feel that the prices were going down. And, after we got Kang, Secret Wars announcements, we got a little bit of an inflate. But then after that, it was, interest rates taking down the comic book market. But now kind of where we are, I do think that is very interesting because, when we talk about how, I've heard that Marvel plans to reveal a lot at San Diego Comic-Con this year. And we know that we have, the Deadpool Wolverine movie coming out. And the way in which the numbers are tracking right now, it's looking like this movie is going to be pretty successful. And it certainly feels like, the people involved in the movie and maybe Marvel Studios is getting a little bit of their mojo back. They're kind of proud of this movie. And, with San Diego Comic-Con, it being released, alongside of it, I do think that, it's probably likely that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman will show up to the con and maybe they'll announce some stuff, or maybe there will be, some post-credit scenes that lead into some big announcements that Kevin Feige gets to elaborate on at the panel. And it feels like the faithful are still buying into this book. I just happened to go to, New Mutants 98 here on eBay, and this is still showing really strong sales. I mean, sold here June 27th, $1,400 for a CGC 9.8. Still in the wake of the excitement for this movie. And, if I go over to comicspriceguide.com and look at some of the values here, I mean, we can see it's trending above that. 9/8s have $13.50, generally speaking, for, what a CGC 9/8 has been going for. And, I've been seeing them go for a little bit lower, on some of the claim sales, some of the Instagram accounts, certainly at auction. But when you get a straight up buy it now, $1,400, I mean, while that obviously is nowhere near the record price, I would say that that's a pretty strong indication that there is still desirability for this book. Now, all that being said, I do think that like every other book that, goes alongside every other movie, this is going to be one that maybe continues to go down later in the year. I'm still of the opinion that if you're somebody out there who wants this book, I mean, just go try to find a raw copy, get it at auction, and grade it yourself if you want to get the 9/8. But there's a lot of people out there that don't want to play that game, and a lot of people willing to still buy this book. I mean, look at this, a 9/6 signed, $1,000, buy it now. This is all from yesterday. A newsstand, somebody got it right here, $400 for this newsstand. That could actually be a pretty good buy depending on how that grades out. 9/6 signed, $1,234 on a live auction. That's pretty darn good. I mean, it is a newsstand copy as well. This 9/4 right here, $600, buy it now. This is all, within the last week. And it's kind of impressive, how much this book sells, the strength of the sales, the desirability of it all. And again, going to some of the numbers here, like it really does feel like, if not selling completely in line to what sort of the numbers have been saying, these books might be selling actually a little bit higher than what, the fair market value for them actually indicates. Here's a 9/6 going for $550. And we see here from the price guides, 9/6, $470, graded value $550. So basically right in line to that. So honestly, pretty impressive given how many copies of this book exist out there. Whether it be on the census or in the raw form, people are really excited about Deadpool and Wolverine. And going back to the Hall H factor, I do think that, maybe there is a slight shift in the comic book culture. Let me know what you guys think about that. Are you starting to feel the shift as well? And what's going to happen if this movie is successful and people really like it again, and it's got the old feeling of the MCU, and then we get a Hall H panel, and Kevin Feige announces, the casting for Doctor Doom, and announces that we're going to get a Ghost Rider project, et cetera, et cetera. What is going to happen in the comic book market from there? Now, one other thing that I thought was interesting was, remember this book right here, Secret Wars #5, Jonathan Hickman? This was one that when this book was shown in the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, people went crazy with this thing. And like all things do, eventually people forgot and started to not care about the book anymore, to where you were seeing it sell for $1 on an auction right there for this book. Someone bought it for $8 right here. Someone bought it on an auction, $550 right there. This was back in May. So people had already forgotten. But, you go here to the recent sales, not that there's been a ton of them, but all of a sudden you're starting to see again, $17.50, slash price of $14 with high shipping right there, $23, slash price of $18, $20 right there. So this book has actually kind of bounced back a little bit, in the last couple weeks, because once again, people are starting to get excited. The movie is coming around, maybe we're going to get a Doctor Doom thing, and it's very, very interesting to follow this stuff. Now, other thing I wanted to kind of quickly talk about, because we're talking about movies and its relation to comic book sales and what's kind of going on, was, the set photos we've been getting from the James Gunn Superman movie. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but there you see our actor, in the Superman outfit. What do you guys think about this? How do you guys feel about this suit? Do you guys like the red Speedos? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm open to it. If the movie's good, the movie's going to be good, and we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. We also saw images of Mr. Terrific right there, so we know that he's going to be in the movie. And again, going back to the speculation and the spec market, Spectre number 54 from 2014, I believe, is the first appearance of this version of Mr. Terrific. Obviously a book that when the rumors for this character actually started, people were going crazy for this thing. And like I said with the Secret Wars #5, a lot of people sort of fell off and people had forgot. But, in the wake of some of these pictures, I mean, look at some of these sales, guys. Sold June 27th for a raw copy, $85. Sold June 26th, 12 bids on this one right here, $81. A 9/8 actually went for sale at a slash price. I believe that was, $410. Which is not necessarily the record price, but a pretty good number, considering what the prices have been going for in 2024. Here's another one right here, a raw copy, June 24, slash price, $135. Maybe it went for $100. And if I go to a comics price guide, I mean, we can see, look at the prices. 9/8 were $60. So this isn't even updated yet. They're pricing, and that's kind of where the raw prices were. $60, $54, $40 for near mint and near mint plus. Even the graded ones, $225 for the 9/8. Compared to this right here, which is sold for $400. So people are starting to get excited out there in the comic book market, I think. That's my sort of feeling on it. I'm not saying everything's going to go to the moon and people are going to lose their minds like 2021 again, but when I see this announcement that Marvel Studios is heading back to Hall H, and if Deadpool and Wolverine is pretty good, it will definitely be interesting to see what happens in the comic book secondary market. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. What do you guys think about this announcement for Hall H? How are you guys feeling just in general about comic books, movies related to comic books? If all of a sudden we get announcements for, the Midnight Suns and Ghost Rider, and we start to see footage of, X-Men or Doctor Doom casting, do you think that that's going to have an effect on the comic book market? Let me know what you guys think. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. Like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next video.